Hello, dear Rosie Webb, and welcome to the podcast. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Before we go into herbalism and medicine and energetics, why don't you give a brief introduction for yourself, where you're from, whatever you want to share?
Okay, sure. All right. I am originally from the Valley of Los Angeles. And then I moved to New York for college and have kind of stayed here since then. Really fell in love with the East Coast and seasons. And then the city itself, too. And I feel like I'm kind of wanting to change where I am, like in terms of my relationship to the city, but it's been a really cool place to have all of my adventures unfold, especially with plants, because it's a kind of interesting. Uh, it's not something you would always, associate like New York City with like starting a path of plant worship, but I guess that's how it worked out. Um, but yeah, what else? So I'm an herbalist. I am a hypnotherapist in the tradition of depth hypnosis, um, and just all around. I don't know which. Yeah, I'm just interested in learning how to relate to the world around us and also to each other and to ourselves. So yeah, that's my synopsis for myself, I guess.
Beautiful. That was like all stages of life and the meaning of life and the pondering of it all.
Yeah, that's my thing. I like to ponder.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit of what you feel like called you to this path? Like you were saying that it's not very traditional. You would think a big city like New York may not be as open to plant studying or holistic healing. So how did you come to know this as a healing and educational playground?
Mm. So, hmm, I think it's like I've always been interested in learning about you know, the natural world around us, so like plants, but also like practices that are just old, like old things. And it all kind of came to fruition in around 2016. I had like a very tumultuous like experience happen with my family, and it kind of set in this like chain of events where I was like, what am I actually doing with my time and what do I want to be doing with my time? Like, what have I always enjoyed? And where can I add that into my life again? And so that's kind of what led me to herbalism. Is I was seeing on Instagram like these people who were like talking about plants and like what they can do for our bodies, but also like talking about them in this way that was very I don't know, like intimate in a way. Like they had relationships with these plants. And so I was just really intrigued. And I was like, why not? Like, if these people are doing it, then I can probably do it too. So I just started looking into like what it would mean to study plants. And that's how I found Arborvitae. And it was just a matter of convenience, honestly, that they like were in the city and that's where I was. So I was like, okay, here we go. And then, yeah, that's how it all kind of unfolded.
So you completed their 3-year traditional clinical herbalism program. How would you, I guess, describe and maybe rate the experience, or what kind of words of encouragement would you have for other students or
Mm.
potential students seeking the same path?
Yeah, I think that I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about the whole thing. Like it was such a potent time, I think, like a 3 year like commitment in a lot of ways to doing this work and
Mhm.
to like learning about it and all of that. And I guess I would just say to anybody who's interested, like, just go where you're interested, but like try to not be too attached to what you think will be the outcome, or like I don't know, remain open um, to learning. It's kind of, yeah, that's because that's where I kind of feel with it now, is like where I thought I would be by the end is not where I am. But but it's like I've learned so much um, throughout the whole thing. And like, I really see it as like the very first step in a very long process of like learning where I fit in with this work and with plants and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, was that kind of your first formal training in herbalism, or do you have any other teachers or training experiences that you've before since started signing up for or following?
Yeah, that was my first like foray into the world at all. Like I had only really read like a few books before, and like nobody in my family is into this kind of stuff at all. But yeah, the only experience I had before that was being a little kid in like the backyard and like chopping up all these different like plants and stuff and like putting them in bottles and like making these like very fantastical kind of like potions and stuff, which
Ooh.
of course were just like rotting plant material. It's like pretty gnarly, but it was so fun. And so that's kind of like why, like, I guess what sort of led me into this, because I was just like, I loved doing that so much. And it was so, like, to call it fun, it is fun, but it's also felt more than that, you know, like it felt like fulfilling in a way. But yeah, no, I haven't really studied herbs outside of Arborvitae, but I'm very interested at this point in kind of like going more deeper with personal gnosis kind of work, like understanding like from myself, like teaching myself some things, or rather standing out of the way enough so that the plant can teach me something. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty deep.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it has been really helpful to have human teachers,
Hmm.
but I also think that where I'm feeling drawn with this work is more of the energetic, mythopoetic kind of side of things. So I'm gonna like see what the non-human teachers have to say. Yeah.
Cool. So with that, what was your favorite kind of teaching or avenue that Arborvitae kind of exposed us to? We had a lot of different teachers, a lot of different subjects. So did you connect with one more strongly than the others? How did you come to this conclusion that you want to the more empirical plant work?
Mhm. Um, hmm. I think that the thing that really stuck with me the most out of the whole training process was really to see how everything is interconnected in a way, um, which is difficult to put into words. Kind of like that understanding of like an ecosystem, how all of that in terms of like when you go out and you look at plants, like you can get to know like who likes to grow near who, and that I think I think that when we look at the world in that way, whether it's like our bodies or the you know the world outside of our homes, like we can really see where there's this opportunity for metaphor to be really helpful. And so I guess you would call that like a holistic view. But that has been really transformative, I think, for my life, because I have a tendency to be like, oh, everything has to be like one way. But of course, then I like burned myself out by like trying so hard to like do this, you know, this one thing. Like I remember at the beginning, it was very interesting to learn about how to like eat properly in a way that like really feeds you. And that was very different from the way that I grew up eating. And it felt quite overwhelming at first because I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much undoing that I need to do in terms of like the way that I think about this, and I need to relearn all of these things. And it could feel really overwhelming. But as I kind of realized, like, okay, like it doesn't all have to change at once. Like there is a flow to things, and um, just learning that I think was the most helpful thing that school gave me, and that I feel like that can be applied to so many of life situations. Um, like when working with our health, to take this like wide view and see that there are a lot of factors that go into that, and take some pressure off of people who are like those like go-getter kind of people. Yeah.
So was it a benefit that fact that it was an in-person program and like live, like you had to interact with other students in person rather than an online program? And also, what drew you to the clinical aspect of the program?
Yeah, I think that being in person was super helpful because I can get super lazy, and I think like it kept me honest in a way. Like I had to like be there, and so it was. Plus, like, I think that when you're doing this work, like, so much of it is actually being next to somebody, um, because there's so much that can get lost. I mean, like, the internet is amazing,
Yeah.
but there's a lot that that you miss in a certain way. So yeah, I really loved that it was in person. And then the clinical, I'm really just fascinated by people and like their lives. And I also have always felt this very strong desire to be of service to other people, and to like help out where I can. So I enjoyed that aspect a lot, because I think that at first it was like that, where I was like, oh, but I want to help people. And then as I learned more, and my perspectives opened on a lot of things, it became really more like, I feel like as somebody who's studying this, it's important that you understand um, how to work with other people, in terms of like sharing this knowledge and this information, because it really is for everybody, and like we need to know like the language to be able to help other people come and see that we have been in connection to plants for as long as we've existed. And like it really is, I think it's imperative that we reconnect in a real way, just because we're gonna need it. Yeah.
True. Yeah, that sounds like a big takeaway.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's been really big. I think my main takeaway from herb school is like we gotta relate to everything, but we can start with plants, and that can be really healing for individual people and also for the whole collective of
Hmm.
everything.
So you said that you're not really at the place that you thought you would end up at the end of the program. So what were your goals and how have they changed?
Yeah, so I was like so about, this is that part of me that's like all or nothing, where I was like, okay, this is my life now. Like this is what I'm gonna do forever. And like I found my path, check that box off,
Bucket
like
list.
yeah, exactly. But it's like, of course life doesn't work like that, like it's so twisty and turny, and it's like you open one door and then you're in a hallway and there's 20 more doors. So that's what I mean, is like I felt like there was going to be sort of this completion of like, okay, now I know what I'm doing and my path, and like I'm going to be a clinical herbalist and that's what's going to happen. But as I like learned more and through my experiences, I'm not so sure that like that necessarily is my path anymore. Like I think that the information that I learned and the connections that I made will inform whatever my path ends up being. But at this point, I'm really sort of like, okay, I guess I'm back to this like drawing board kind of place, which is terrifying, but also exciting, in a way. So yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely relate because when I went to pharmacy school, I thought, everything is right there
Mhm.
for me. And once I graduate, like my life will start. But then once that life started, I realized that I also have to go back to the drawing board because it hasn't been like fully fulfilling for me to do that work. That's why I sought out to do more trainings and figure out more directions where I could take myself on.
Yeah.
So I could definitely relate. And so I know you have other trainings in the works too. Did you complete the hypnotherapy program that you were part of?
Yeah, so I finished, I'm a certified hypnotherapist. I got that in December, and then by next January, hopefully, most likely, I will be what is it? Depth hypnosis practitioner. And so then that's like I'm done with that whole like thing, but I'm I'm still working on that one.
Yeah, that sounds really intriguing. Can you tell us what the training entailed and what the work is as well?
Yeah, definitely. So the training entails there's a curriculum of classes that are done by this school called the Foundation of the Sacred Stream. It's based in Berkeley, California, and it's run by this woman named Isa Gucciardi, and she is a psychologist um, and who specializes in transpersonal psychology. But she's created this method called depth hypnosis, which combines elements of transpersonal psychology, elements of traditional Ericksonian hypnosis, which is that sort of like repatterning through scripts, um, and then also brings in elements of Buddhist psychology and theories of the mind, and theories of like what we can do to either continue to perpetuate our suffering or how we can dissolve karmic ties so that we're able to kind of like let that go. Um, as well as bringing in elements of energy medicine and shamanic perspective of energy, especially with regards to that sort of metaphor thing that I was talking about before, how images are really helpful for our ability to transform, trauma that's happened to us, or just to learn lessons from our deeper selves, kind of like dreams. So sessions generally involve like a guided meditation, and with the practitioner holding space for the client to dive really deeply into whatever it is that's going on with them, but in a really held and safe way, so that it's not re-traumatizing or anything like that. It's more just like exploratory, and from there being able to bring healing to wherever down the line of your experience this issue first kind of took root. So it's really powerful work, and it's endlessly fascinating. I think that's one of my favorite things about it.
So how long was that program?
So it's you can do it in a variety of time lengths, but typically it's like 2 to 3 years, as the classes come up. And then there are longer classes, and there are like curriculum that you do at home as well for review. So it involves the depth hypnosis practitioner certification itself, where then you become a member of the professional organization that they have. That involves doing like a bunch of case reviews and There's like books to read and also the workshops and stuff and supervisory. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like it. I had no idea they had their own board. Is that a licensed profession by any chance?
It's not licensed because it isn't like it's interesting because hypnosis in certain states like in New York, technically I'm not a hypnotherapist. I'm a hypnotist because there is like stickiness around using the word therapist in any way,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what state you're in and like the licensure. Um, so because it isn't through like an accredited like psychology program, it's not licensed. And it's really quite different. I mean, it's very different than like talk therapy. um, yeah.
So would you say that you kind of put the patient or the client on a journey, or is it like a trance, or like what exactly is the level that the person goes to into the conscious mind or subconscious?
Yeah, so the goal is for the client to be very relaxed and very comfortable because when you're in that place, um, images can kind of come through that you wouldn't like necessarily understand what they mean. Like they might seem really random, but it's kind of like a dream where if you really look at a dream, even the most mundane dream will have some kind of information for you from that part of yourself that is very deep within you. And people can experience that part of themselves in very different ways. But ultimately, it's kind of like that inner wisdom. And so the whole point in the session is for the person to be super relaxed in their body. And the body plays a really big role because the body is what enables us to do this work at all because it's like a very safe anchor point for the person to like settle into the body. And the body has a lot of wisdom about like pain or happiness even, like where do you feel an emotion actually in your body. Even that one question can unlock like so much understanding for a variety of issues. So from that place of being very deeply connected to the physical body, then your mind can kind of like not wander, but like things can come through freely that can have really potent meaning. Um, so I don't know if I would call it a trance. I'm sure some people could perceive it to be a trance, but the client is extremely aware the whole time. It's not like you're like I mean, you might fall asleep, but then I'll wake you up. You know what I mean? Like some people get really relaxed, but that isn't the goal. Like you don't want to fall asleep. You want to be very lucid, but kind of it's like lucid dream, but you're not asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And you're very much in control of the whole situation. So if like things get uncomfortable, you can just come right out and um, there's like no problem with that.
So, and these sessions, they have to be in person or can they be done remotely?
They can be done remotely, definitely. Really, it's just that the person feels comfortable. Like I've done all of my sessions with my practitioner remotely,
Mm-hmm.
but you can also do it in person as well. So I guess it's like a personal choice, however you feel would be most comfortable for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What has been like most surprising or a takeaway from your training in this modality?
Oh my God. It's completely changed my life and just the way that I look at so many things. But I guess right now, what's standing out very prevalent to me is the way that I look at my relationships to other people, or just the way that I look at other people's relationships to other people. And just seeing how the way that we interact with one another, especially when we get like when our defenses get triggered, or, like that kind of like, I don't know, those like dynamics that can be a little sticky sometimes, and how those defenses are really just like our reactions to the way that things were in our birth family, or like our family of origin, like as we were growing up. and
Mm-hmm.
and we continue to kind of like play these roles that might still work for us or might not work for us. And so that's been like at the forefront of my mind for like the past few months, just really looking at like the way that, like looking at what kind of puts my spikes up and like sort of seeing like, okay, where's that coming from? And is that really like, is that something that I'm fearing that isn't actually true anymore, but like used to be true, or just my automatic reflex? So yeah, just the course has really shown me a lot of the way that we are is just patterned without us even being conscious of it. But that means that we can also shift it too. It's just a matter of becoming aware and like figuring out what is the key to like unlocking that like default mechanism.
So you've already started seeing clients, as I
Mhm.
understand it. So is that kind of the pattern that you've been noticing, that most of their concerns are regarding relationships to other people? Or like what has been the most prevalent thing that you've noticed among the clients? Like what are they seeking in these sessions?
Hmm. I think that relationships kind of always come into the mix just because we're such social beings, but it isn't always the direct, question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if any one thing has come up, um, like across the board for everyone, but I will say that it's always astonishing to me how much like I learn in a session, because it's like that funny thing where someone comes in with something that like I totally have also experienced,
Mm.
or that might even be like prevalent in my mind all at that moment, or not at that exact moment, but like in my life at that time. And how that's just why I just feel like it's such an honor to do this work, because through being able to hold the space for those people to go through their own transformation and come to their own deeper understanding, it also teaches me so much about like the work that I need to do as well. But yeah, I think a lot of people are very anxious. Um, a lot of people struggle with that, and I think just I don't know, our times. Maybe also because I've been working with a lot of New Yorkers,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, but it always unfolds into something that I would not necessarily have expected. So it's always interesting. No two sessions are alike.
Yeah. So do people come to you for like physical ailments, or like just like you said, like anxiety? So I guess a mood disorder of some sort, or how do people find you, and what are they usually,
Mhm.
seeking to do?
Yeah, I think that people have found me mostly through like word of mouth, or just people within my networks, people that I know. And usually the people who come are like either have tried a lot of other things, um, or they're just sort of like mystically inclined. They're like, this sounds interesting, and aren't super sure, like necessarily even what they're getting into. Um, and I mean, that's how I was. But yeah, it often starts with a emotional situation,
Hmm.
and from that emotional situation, like physical stuff can come up as well. That's linked to it, that like they may or may not even be aware is linked to it. Yeah.
Wow, it's fascinating. So, how many sessions would you typically recommend for somebody to feel results or benefit?
Yeah. So it really depends on what the person is looking to do. It depends on the level of like their, I don't really know, maybe like the level of their literacy with this work in in general, or I don't know if that's really the best way to describe it, but like if they meditate already, like they could probably do less sessions and get a lot of work done on their own, you know, like because that's like basically similar. Um, but if somebody is coming into this like totally new, doesn't really have a meditative practice, has never really thought of their stuff in this way before, I think at least 3 is helpful, because in those first 2, you kind of are able to lay a groundwork that you can feel really safe in the altered state, which is that sort of sleeping but not sleeping kind of vibe. And then once you feel really safe, like you can discover a lot. And I think it's also like a muscle, like, or maybe, I don't know, a muscle, but also some people are just good at it in general. They're just good at letting go of like
Yeah.
their rational mind. Other people, not so much, and it takes some more practice.
Yeah. Sure.
Or, you know, yeah, I would just stress that it's really different for everybody. And like some people experience like visual kind of scenes, like a journey. Other people don't experience that at all. And all they feel is stuff moving in their body. Or they just feel relaxed, or they're just able to speak more clearly about something that they weren't able to articulate before. So it's like so personal, and there's no like right way to do it, I don't think, to have the experience, you know.
Wow. Well, it sounds like some profound healing can be
Yeah.
done with type of work.
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty powerful, I think.
Um, are you planning to combine it with herbalism in the future, or are you going to keep the 2 practices separate?
I really would love to find a way to combine them. And at this point, I'm kind of just trying to think what would make most sense with that, and what kind of that would even really look like. But I have a feeling that and this is sort of why I'm feeling really drawn to that kind of more spiritual kind of relating to the plants, because I have a feeling that it's going to be that, in that the hypnosis work, like the plants, I mean, obviously plants can help so much by helping us with our emotional states, as well as the physical body. So yeah, it will probably be like a complement to the like emotional work, and also maybe like a I don't know, like a process of just encouraging people to like make a plant friend and just have one nearby.
Whether they are ingesting it or
Yeah,
not, right? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
just sort of be around it and like go for some walks in the park, or, you know, woods,
Of
whatever.
course, bathing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Awesome. So, I didn't ask you to prepare anything for us, but if you would like to lead us on a short meditation of some sort, or anything that you would want to share from your work with us.
Okay, sure. Um,
Yeah, it could be
okay,
brief.
okay. So how about like a basic kind of grounding
Okay.
embodiment thing? Because this is something that I've been really trying to do for myself, because it's been a whole process of like coming to exist in my body, like always thinking all the time. So okay.
Beauty workers. All right.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So just you'd want to start by being either upright, in a, I don't know, my teacher calls it a dignified position. You know, all the airways are nice and free. Or you can lay down too. And then just inviting you to close your eyes if that feels good. But closing your eyes doesn't feel good, you can softly gaze at the floor or at the ceiling or just a point on the wall. And just starting, taking a deep breath, feeling your belly expand with that air coming down through your throat, down into your torso, and then just breathing that air out through your nose or through your mouth. And something that's really helpful is each time you breathe in and you feel that air coming down into your belly, just imagine it kind of like circling around inside of your belly, as if your belly is some sort of cup or vessel. And then as you exhale, feeling that air whoosh right out, up through the top. And feeling the air come in. And with your exhale, feel the air go all the way up your spine, up to the top of your head, and then come out the top of your head and kind of surround your body in a cocoon. And so each time you breathe in and out in this way, you're kind of creating like a little force field or energy field, just protection around your body. And as you do this, just allow yourself to really feel into your body. Like maybe you feel like you're getting a little heavy or really light. Maybe you feel an itch. Try not to scratch it. But if you have to, totally do that. Yeah, just sort of like feel what it feels like to be in your body. And this is really helpful to do when you are about to do something that you're nervous about, or I like to do it on the train if I feel like there's way too many people around. It kind of helps me feel more solid inside myself. And then whenever you feel like you're ready, you can just imagine that that force field that you've been building up on the outside of your body just kind of like sinks right into the top layer of your skin. And you can open your eyes and stretch a bit, but then you know that you're like sealed in.
Wow, that was really nice.
Yeah, it's a good one, and it's easy to do, and like nobody needs to know you're doing it.
Wow. Well, I actually felt a tiny bit lightheaded when you said, you should feel solid. I felt like a little more lightheaded. I feel like it might be too relaxing to do on the train. I feel like I need to be a little bit on guard on the train.
That's true. Well, you could like shift it. You could like tweak it a little bit, like maybe you could change the image slightly to like make you feel like more,
Mm-hmm.
rooted down, or you could have it go the opposite way and come out the bottom of your body, rather than like the top. So
Mm-hmm.
I encourage people to play around with stuff like that because we're all so unique, and our dictionaries of symbol and image, like they are very personal. So kind of make up your own thing, whatever works for you.
Thank you for sharing that. That was really
Yeah.
So, I also know that you were an herbalist at Naturopathica. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, I'm still there.
Oh, so tell us about the venue and what they do
Yeah.
there and what you do there.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool spot. So basically, they're a spa and a natural beauty skincare company that was started in the 90s out in the Hamptons. And they've kind of just continued to grow and they make really great skincare products that are really clean and really effective. So it's a really nice place to work. And it's interesting to work in this kind of like very um, like clean beauty wellness type of place because a lot of people aren't super familiar with herbalism or with the principles of all of that, and way of working with the body and health and plants, but they're really interested. So it's been a lot of really good experience, like educating people about what it means to work with a plant. And one of the things I always tell people is that plants have their own personality too. And so just like you get along really well with one person, like you might not get along so well with another person. And it's just a matter of introducing yourself and checking them out to see what's up. So it's been cool to kind of like shift people's perspectives like that as like their first exposure to herbalism.
So their focus is to have clean in terms of sustainably sourced ingredients and like non-toxic ingredients
Yeah.
in products.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
And you work in the city location, right?
Hmm.
Manhattan.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's where is it located?
It's in Chelsea. It's on 26th Street and between 6th and 7th Avenue. Yeah. Yeah.
So do you are a consultant there, or do you actually do herbal consults?
So I do herbal consultations at the spa, and then I also work as like a retail wellness specialist in the spa as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I find it really cool that I think the beauty industry is one of the kind of gateways to
Mhm.
herbalism,
Yeah.
because the skin, whether it's aging or inflamed or acne or allergy, it's showing us something about like our deeper state of health that's going on inside. So often people maybe are trying to cover it up with makeup or trying to look better with makeup, but at the end of the day, they want to make their skin look better. So they're seeking like a health for their skin, but then sometimes they just find that they need to work from the inside out or the outside in or whatever it is.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. So that's often what kind of gets people in the door for seeing me there is like skin stuff, because that's why they're there in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then some of them that want to do a deeper consultation, they basically can give you whatever else is bothering you all in one
Hmm.
sitting, right?
Yeah,
And then you,
exactly.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Do they have package deals there, or how does it work?
So I believe herbal consultations are 150 for an hour and a half to 2 hours, for the first session. And then after that, I think it's 100. I would need to double check on the price for like the second sessions, but yeah, so it's like in conjunction with their other offerings of massage and facials there.
Very nice. Okay, I'll put a link to Naturopathica in the
Okay,
show so
cool.
people can reach out.
Yeah,
Maybe
definitely.
schedule a visit.
Yeah.
Are they open 7 days a week?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
I take consultations on Wednesday and Friday.
Awesome. I will put that in the show notes. So coming to almost the close of our interview, you also have your own personal brand called Serpent Daughter. So how did you come up with that name and what does
Mhm.
it represent?
Yeah. So, okay, there's some backstory. Um, when I was a kid, I was very, very, very afraid of snakes. Like, number one fear. When I was really little girl, I would have these like not even nightmares because I wasn't even asleep, but like as a kid, you're laying in bed and it's dark and you just start to imagine like all of the
Yeah,
scary things. So I would have this like imagining of this like giant snake coming out from under my bed and like encircling me on the bed. It was horrifying. So so scary. Um so snakes have always been this like fear for me. And then in 2014, I started to get more exposure to spirit work and to understanding, I don't know, more of that like mythopoetic kind of view of working with the mind through meditation and shamanic journeying. And I did a journey to meet a helper in animal form who would help me in my life. And who it was? It was a snake, obviously. And I was like, oh God. I was like, oh no. But of course, this makes sense. And often that's the way, is like the things that we're most scared of, they can teach us the most. And um, so after I had that experience, it was very much like okay, well, I need to reassess my relationship to this animal now. Um, and that's been a whole process. I still haven't touched one because I don't know, like that might take another few years, but I decided to call my project Serpent Daughter because I wanted the name to be a person in a way, like a character.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was really inspired by there's an herbalist, her name is Liz Migliorelli, and she has a company called Sister Spinster. And I was really inspired by her story of where she thought of that name. And I really loved the idea of like, because I mean, to call it like a business, I don't even know if I would call Serpent Daughter a business. It really feels like it's this like practice in a way, or
Mm-hmm.
just this project.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I was like, okay, well, snakes, and I guess I'm the daughter. But the more that I've sat with it, the more that it really is this like, um, I feel that Serpent Daughter is this character who exists within all of us, and is like the one who can transform things, and the one who's like really full of courage and also really like old knowing. Snakes being this like creature that's connected to the earth and really ancient ways of understanding, and like the stuff that's like deep in the earth, and that constant growth and shedding.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also really inspired by this art piece that I saw that was like a graffiti that was in the East Village, and it was this figure of there was this statue that was found in Crete, that is this woman, and she's holding two snakes up in her arms. Actually, it's this. So my
Oh,
friend found this at a bead store,
wow.
but this is they call her the Minoan snake goddess. They don't really know what her name was because she's so ancient. But I saw a wheat paste in like William somewhere, like Williamsburg, I don't know, like with this woman on it, and I was like that's Serpent Daughter. And then I learned more about what this symbol actually means, and yeah, it feels like the name kind of chose itself in a way, and now I'm just sort of like learning about Serpent Daughter.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing. So maybe the encircling of the snake was actually protective and not
yeah,
scary. And
maybe.
like a snake eating its own tail is also a famous
Mhm.
symbol, I guess, of infinity or
Yeah,
eternal life. So, and I guess it's an alchemical symbol of transformation, like you were saying. That's
yeah.
pretty deep.
Exactly. So there's like this kind of journey aspect to it where I'm like, okay, I'm like along for the ride. Like whatever. Yeah, it's been very interesting.
So the project or the brand that you created, are you using it as a platform to kind of just share your story or inspire other herbalists, or what would you say is the purpose of it?
Yeah, that's really what I'm trying to figure out right now. I've kind of like taken a break from social media and
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like posting and everything, because I'm really trying to understand like how to use it in a way that is helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, at this point with Serpent Daughter, I'm kind of like taking a step back and trying to assess like where it wants to go, and just like not be in the way of that. So it, in terms of, we live in 2019. social media is important. So in terms of that platform, my vision for it is that it's just like a, I don't know, like a visual word kind of art piece that gives people information about, you know, the stuff that I'm like learning about and traversing.
So it's your symbol.
Yeah, yeah. Just like the stuff that I would want to like share with people, put that out there.
So you want to use it more as an informational tool and not as a business logo or anything like that?
I think that um, I think both, but the whole business thing is what I'm trying to figure out right now in
Yeah.
terms of like what I actually want to do with it and what makes sense to do with it. Um, so yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm sure it'll come to you.
Yeah.
So we're down to the last round of, I guess, short, quick, fire rapid questions that I've thought up. And so these are just like on the spot questions.
Okay.
So what is your advice for students that are interested in following your model of either herbalism or more like intuitive energy work or hypnosis?
Mm-hmm. Okay, advice. Oh goodness. Um, just do it. If you're interested in it at all, do it because I think the world needs more people who know about this kind of stuff. Um, and pay attention to your dreams. Write that
Cool.
shit down.
Cool.
Look
Thank
it over.
Yeah, I had a dream journal for some time, but it's definitely a practice. Like,
Yeah,
you have to keep
totally.
it up for sure. All right. Name one thing that listeners can do to improve their quality of life.
Get enough sleep. Oh my God. Just go to sleep. Like, you don't need to be on your phone anymore. Just go to sleep. That's what I tell myself every night. Sometimes I do it and it's great, but I notice that's like the one thing that will instantly improve my quality of life, sleeping
Yeah,
more.
for sure. And if you don't have kids, like do it now. It'll
Yeah,
be really hard
exactly.
to do it for some time.
So true.
As I've learned from personal experience. All right. What is a hobby or something you do in your downtime?
Hmm. Well, knitting. I love
Oh
knitting.
yeah.
Yeah. Knitting.
Yeah, you knitted me some stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Knitting is so fun. And then you get a thing
Yeah,
also,
at the end of
which
it.
is pretty awesome.
Yeah. That's really cool. How'd you learn?
YouTube.
Oh, good to
Yeah.
know. Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, what is your favorite tea or other beverage?
Oh, goodness. Okay, my favorite tea is probably, oh my gosh, I don't know. This is such a hard
I know it's
question.
so hard for herbalists.
It's such a
For some people, it's just coffee, not even tea. But so I'm just opening it up.
Well, okay, my favorite herbal tea at the moment is probably lemon balm or fennel. I also love fennel. Um, but then otherwise water. Honestly, I love water so much. It's kind of crazy how much I love water.
Water is so underrated and amazing.
I
I'm
love it.
drinking water right now.
Yes, everyone drink some water right now.
All right. And lastly, how can our listeners get in touch with you directly or learn more about your brand or anything that you're doing or offering?
Yeah, okay, so I'm on Instagram at Serpent Daughter. And I also have a website, serpentdaughter.com. So you can check those out. The website has a lot of information about what I do and like links for booking, has a blog that I don't update enough, but that's a dream. I feel like that's what everyone says about their blog. Uh,
Hard.
yeah. And then right now I'm on like a little hiatus from Instagram, but I'll probably be coming back pretty soon after Mercury stops being retrograde. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're also really into astrology. You wouldn't expect
yeah.
that.
It's okay. There's like a lot. There's a lot of random things that I'm into. But yeah, Mercury is going to be retrograde until July 31st. So after that, everything will be back to usual programming, I think.
Okay, well, I mean, we need that too. We need to sometimes stop and burrow and go into some hiding,
Yeah.
do some thinking. So, and what about your hypnotherapy sessions? Do you have
Mm.
any links or offerings about that?
Yeah, so if you go to serpentdaughter.com, there's a hypnosis section, and you can just click on that, and it has all the information about sessions and like how much they cost and how long they are and what it even means. And there's also some links to the Sacred Stream website too, so you can learn more about my teacher and like where that wisdom is coming from.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure.
You.
I'll have all the information about your contact information in the show notes, as well as about Naturopathica. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes. Thank you so much, Marina. It was great talking.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.